Dealing with grief in a time of crisis. I want to ask everyone, how do you deal with grief in the midst of a pandemic? I stopped and began to examine my own behavior because I learned that grief is a process. Most of us never imagine losing relatives, friends, and coworkers all within 1 year. It has been a horrible time to experience such grief. My name is Margaret Coleman, and I have spent time researching how to cope with grief and loss. My research started approximately 3 years ago when I lost three friends and family members back to back. Today, I want to share how I invested in my mental health that has allowed me to cope with grief. And guess what? I have bounced back with more resilience to move forward. To accomplish this goal of resiliency, let me share two things that I've stayed the course with to get to these goals accomplished. Number one, I utilize the therapist to walk me through understanding that grief is a process. Number two, I leaned on close friends that I could share my hurt with, and they supported me as well. Let me share with you the information I received from my therapist to support me. I researched and found a therapist that I felt confident to assist me with walking through the stages of grief. Many times we shut down when we lose people we love and care deeply for, and in many cases we don't know where to turn. During this time, it is a pivotal moment to reflect on the why. Grief is a process and it has stages that will provide the outcome for you to understand the loss. My experience through the grieving process will be unforgettable. While engaging in the process, I experienced pain, rethinking about the loss and how it has impacted my life and emotions. The therapist allowed me to feel the pain, to go deeper, as I could not find the words to express the loss and the hurt that I felt during my time of needing to heal. During this time I spent facing the pain, I was able to release the guilt. Overall, my countenance in my face did not appear that I was moving forward, but I started the process anyway. I started moving into a new direction to help me accept the loss, which was my reality. I took a leap of hope to help others learn how to work through the grieving process. So now that I have shared my journey about the grief I encounter, I would like to analyze the behavior I experience. There are two main behavior patterns that I experience. Grief is something we will all encounter. The process and how long we deal with it is up to us. One of my main patterns was acceptance. It was necessary to accept the loss as my reality. The pattern of anger was my second process. These two patterns assisted me with a positive outcome. Acceptance was the reality. All must die. It's inevitable that we cannot live forever with friends and loved ones. Anger is a matter of fact emotions we can't escape. However, if it's not dealt with, it can cause a lot of harm to ourselves and others. Grief is a process. We will all experience loss in some facet or another. A common thread that was learned through my research is finding a therapist and using other support systems to help you work through the pain and hurt. It's equally important to understand that emotions that are common with losing someone that you deeply care about. Every emotion has a meaning. Upon learning what the meaning is, we can heal through the process of grief. I still deal with the anger occasionally, but I've accepted the reality. I have become resilient and positive to continue my journey. Today, I share how investing in your mental health can support you with grief and loss. To accomplish this goal, I have shared two things with you. First, I shared my experience with the therapist, and secondly, I analyzed how I followed the information she shared with trusted friends. So I shared with you how to cope with grief and loss. Are you willing to work through the process? It's challenging and a difficult process to experience. I strongly suggest if you're dealing with grief and the loss of a friend or loved one, keep these steps in mind.